Hi everyone, I'm back. I'm gonna wave hello. I'm so glad to see you all. We're gonna work on that little drawing again. This little drawing is the one that I've done in various steps. This step now I have done all the watercolor pencil except for the birds. So now we're gonna start on the birds. And what I'm going to do are I'm going to start with my green. I'm using the Inktense Pencils, and if you watch the previous videos then you'll see the different colors. There's this apple green, there's this olive green they call leaf green, okay, and then there's this kind of teal green they actually just call teal green, and then I have a brown that is a really dark brown that they call bark. Now with the birds, this one is going to be a black chin, this is going to be a ruby, this one here I haven't quite decided, but I think I'm gonna make it a rufous. But now we're going to start with a ruby, and the rubies are the most common that you see here in South Texas all the time. And if you want to pull up your computer or your phone or whatever and look at pictures for reference, you can if you're not real familiar with them. I do have some pulled up on my computer, even though I've drawn them a gazillion times and painted them and everything. Plus, if you have a feeder outside your window, it helps because then you can look at them while you're drawing. I'm going to start with the kind of olive color, and we're going to come in on the back. And don't get crazy with it, just lightly kind of come in like this. And remember, you're drawing feathers. Feathers are like little pieces, like little shingles kind of. And then the feathers that come up, the flight feathers, are going to be the longer, thinner feathers. And then the ones that are the little feathers are kind of in layers, so what you're going to do is kind of draw them like little scallops as you go, like this. Okay, and along the top of the head and even onto the beak, even though the beak is really dark, you're going to use a mixture of colors in it. And then the wing, where these flight feathers kind of come up like this, you're going to draw little lines. Because remember, you're going to be adding water to this, and the angle changes as the wing changes like this, okay, because they radiate out from the wing, which is kind of like little arms for them. And then underneath here they have like their little kind of bird armpit, I guess you could call it. But once again, the feathers layer, and I'm going to use this kind of olivey color and just layer, 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 boom, 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 boom. And then the back over here, you're going to add some more. And then the tail feathers are actually more brownish. We're going to add some in here like this. Okay. And then the back of the head kind of comes down, and then the red is going to come. This is going to be a male, so he's going to have that red that everybody knows. Everybody thinks they all look like that. But it's only the males. And then their little feet are kind of hidden in the feathers here. So then what we're going to do is we're going to take the brown, and you're going to lightly go over the brown like this. Because you have to keep remembering you're going to add water to this. So you're not going to just fill it in solid. Because when you see, when I add the water to this, it's going to change completely. Okay. And the feathers on the tail, they have like these little white, some do don't, they have little white tips on the ends of them. The thing to do is just study the birds that you want to draw and see, you know, if you don't care so much about being accurate, if you just want to draw, don't worry about it, just draw it. But if you're worried that your little bird nerd friends are going to go, oh, that's not even how they look, then you may want to study it first. And then along the edges of the belly, I like to do just a little bit so that it makes them look rounder. And they have these kind of brownish feathers down here anyway, along this side of the belly. Then we're going to take some of that bright green, which is the lighter green, and come in on the top a little lighter, because you're going to kind of fill this in really light, and then when we add water to it, you'll see. It's magic. It's like making your own paint by numbers. That's what I call it. Except you don't have the numbers. But that's why I'm showing you how to do it. So then you can draw it. Then you can go back, add this. Then you go back, and the very last thing you do is add the water, and then you look at it and go, nah, I don't like it. And if you decide to make it darker or lighter, you know, you can add more water. But you can do, my computer's just there. You can do a lot of things with these. And you see, he's starting to look like a bird. Now the eye, I would use the brown. Don't do the whole eye solid away across. Leave a little white spot like that. Okay. And you're going to take, there's a dark blue in here called Indigo. I know we can't name it dark blue because deep indigo, that sounds so much more exotic. Let's go in here with that too, and just a little bit like that. And you're thinking, well, why didn't you just color the whole thing in? Because we're going to add water. You have to think different when you're using these. You're thinking of throwing color on here, and then you're going to add water, which is going to make it way different. Now the throat on these dudes, see right now it looks like a female, and then they actually have a really dark, let's do this dark section around so you guys know what I'm talking about. We're going to do the dark around the eye, and make sure you leave a little white spot behind the eye and a little kind of white area around the eye, because that way when you paint it, it's going to fill in, but you still have that. They have this dark spot, this dark area all the way around their eye like this, but this area right here, you're going to leave a white area. And kind of just do a little outline, little whoops, and gonna come in here like this. Okay, and then we're going to take our red. And if you want to see more on how I sketch, how I come up with all these crazy different ideas, make sure you subscribe and look at my other videos. And I have one on just on how I sketch when I try to come up with an idea before I paint it or draw it. And then there's also some for how to use these Inktense pencils in general. You may want to watch that one before you do it, just so you kind of play with it and see what you like. Then there's ones for painting, if you like to paint. I have all different things, so it kind of gives you something to try. So see, he's got his little red throat. No, they don't go just straight across. You look at the bird, they kind of curve with the bird, and they're little feathers. And you can throw some red up in here too. And then the other thing, if you want it really to be brighter, is to add some yellow in here. Because when we mix this color, when we add the water, it's going to be brighter. And the same up in here. The tops of the wings, you can throw some yellow in there. And the reason for this is so that when they blend, you'll see it. Then there's this really kind of apple green. This is the light green we're going to throw in here like this. And they have this kind of creamy color, and then the color on the sides of their belly kind of comes in here like this. See? Boom, 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 boom. See? Now he starts to look like a hummingbird. And then we're going to take the bark And you're thinking, gee, how can you draw them because they move so fast? Well, you know, you ask them to stand still for a sec. No, you get yourself a feeder, put it in your backyard or wherever, someplace where you can see it while you're sitting there eating your breakfast or whatever, and look outside. And when they stop to eat, that's when you get a really good chance to look at them up close and personal. Photographs are a great tool because, let's face it, otherwise it's hard to see all of these details. Okay, so this little guy is pretty close to just needing the water added. I don't like to do a whole lot until I do this first layer like this. And then what I do is I add water, then I look at it, and then I may go add another layer where I want it brighter, where I want to change the color a little differently. And oh, the brown should go up here on the beak too. And this little guy here is going to be our black chin. Now black chins are a little different. Black chins are interesting because their chins look black on the males. They don't look like they have any color right here at all. They just look black. And I had a pair of them in the backyard. Anyway, the female kept coming to my feeder early in the season, like in April, May. And I kept seeing her, and then this male showed up. And the males, like I said, look like they are all black on the chin, and you think they might be a ruby. And then when they're slightly different size. But anyway, when they turn and the light hits them just right, it's purple. And it's really, really pretty. And you're just kind of like, wow, that one's pretty, you know. At least that's for me. And so then you look it up and go, what is that? Then when you look it up and you go, oh, it's a black chin. So, and once again, you curve this line, these lines as they come out, they go like this, okay? He's not going to be straight down out of they kind of radiate. Think of them as fingers. They kind of come out like this. So you're going to just kind of shade underneath here like this. Same thing under here. Just they're like little birdie armpits because they're the little birdie arms. But instead of fingers, they have feathers. And they kind of come down like this. And then on the back of their heads are kind of dark. His little eye is going to be right in here, okay? You're not going to really see a whole lot of this bird's eye because of the angle of him. So don't worry about it. Don't stress out over it. There's this other brown I have in here too that's called Baked Earth. That's exotic. So we're going to use this because it's a lighter brown, because we want to create that translucent, there's that multi-syllable word again, and we're going to take that and we're going to add some up here too on our little ruby friend, because when you add water to this, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's going to turn into something magic. And then his little tail feathers like this, and his little beak. We're going to throw some of this brown in here. Now in our Rufous, we're going to have a lot more of this brown, because Rufous is like reddish brown. That's what it stands for. If you speak Latin, you know. But if you don't, like most people on the planet, then that's what it means. I'm going to throw some of this teal in here just to be weird. I'm going to throw some up here too. It's darker. Not a whole lot, just a little bit. Okay, purple. I have this fuchsia, it's called. There's not really a blue, violet, purple on this in this set. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to do like little scallops. They're like fish scales. And the thing about them is they kind of do this number. And they get smaller as they get higher up on the bird's throat. They're bigger down at the edge, and then up here they're smaller. Okay, so you're going to just kind of do the outline like this, of this purple. And then very lightly just kind of shade it. Okay. You're thinking, well, doesn't look like purple. Okay, well, we're going to take this other blue that I have that I haven't sharpened. What's it called? Sea blue. It's not really sharpened, so it looks really awful right now. You want to make sure all your pencils are sharpened well before you do this. I didn't check this one, so it's my fault. Just kind of dab little bits of blue on here, because you're going to have to think about these pencils like paint that you're applying dry, and then you're going to add water to create watercolor. In this case, these are like ink pencil. So it's really weird. They're just more intense in color, that's all. So we have those colors. This will create purple when we're going to get it wet. And then we're going to throw some more of this olive green around the edges, like this, like that. And like I said, leave a little space. So throw on this bill. And we're going to kind of come in here. And then we're going to throw some more on the edges, but just towards the edges, not in the middle, because you'll find out when we throw the color in, the water in here, that you can control more of that. And if your feathers look too wide, you can just throw another line on there. The feathers on their wings are fairly wide, but not like the jumbo giant wide, okay? And the bellies are pretty much tannish white, and then their backs are green. So you can shade it with the dark green. And we're going to come in with a light green. And throw some in here just to give it a little highlight. And then on the tops, right in here, you're just barely covering it up and throwing some up here. And then along the edges, like this. Okay. And then what we're going to do is a little shading with this brown where his little feet are. Okay. And they also have these wonderful little tail feathers down here like this. You can add to and across the belly. You're not going to do it all the way across, just little pieces. There. Okay. And then I'm going to throw some more purple or fuchsia right in here. And you could even throw a little red in there, because when, like I said, when this turns purple, it's going to look more when you have water. And now this one is a rufous, I just decided. So we're going to go up here. And this kind of wing feather does this, and they kind of come down like this. They radiate out like this. You're going to see the dent, the indent here. We're going to kind of draw from that up like that. See? Zoop, zoop, like a fan. You know, like those little fans. If you ever went to Chinatown when you were a kid 1,000 years ago, like I did, or you go to one of those really interesting Chinese markets, you can see all kinds of neat stuff. Then you can, the way the fans come out and they're paper, it's basically the same kind of thing. And then this is interesting. That's actually a hole right there. This is the back of his tail feather that comes up like this. And that's his little back right here. And this is like his little birdie armpit. See, you didn't think you'd be drawing bird armpits, but surprise. Okay, there's his little feet. Okay, now, I told you I was going to use that red-brown, right? Because this is rufous. That's orange. This one here, baked earth. You're going to take that one, and they have a lot of this color of rufuses, have a lot of it on their sides of their bellies and even into their wings, more so than the other hummingbirds. And that's why they're called rufous. So, because it has to do with this really neat color that's on them. So we're going to throw some red throat patch on them, like a ruby. We're going to put more of this down here. And now you don't have to add water to all of it. You know, or maybe we'll make this one a female. Because I get tired of it's all the boys club. We don't want, you know, nothing but the boys club. So we're gonna, it's not fair, you know. We don't want to be accused of bird sexism. You know, that would be bad. So let's go with, there's the brown. His little eye is like right in here. But see, he's looking down. So the eye placement is really important with these guys. If you get the eye in the wrong spot, you'll be going, what? It doesn't look right. So we're going to take our dark brown. We're going to come over and shade up in here. Like this. Okay. And then the green, because they do have that bright green on the back of their little heads right here. I'm going to do the little whoop, 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 whoop. And my screens are all way in there. And up on the top. And up until the edges of these feathers. There, like that. Because the females, she's not going to have that patch, throat patch, or gorget or whatever. I don't want to get ticky-tack with the terms, people. I know. And then her beak is dark brown. I'm going to throw the deep indigo on it because it was going to look really dark, just like these dudes. Because you mix blue and brown together and you get the best black ever. Like I've told you 1,000 times. I know. Okay. Where's my olive? Right here. I'll take the olive and we're going to create some little dark areas underneath her, like a shadow. Because she's sitting here just going nuts on this. There. And like around the head, edge of the head, where you're going to shade that just a little darker. Because that way it's going to stand out a little more. There. Boom. Now you have your ruby, your black chin, and your rufous. And they're all just having a great time, along with the bees, having a party here on this. Make sure your hands are clean, by the way, when you do this. And you do not have any grease if you ate bacon, and make sure you wash your hands good. If you have any oil on your hands, it'll go right into this and ruin it. So, just FYI. Okay, I'm going to stop it because that way you guys can take a little look at this. I'll zoom in on it so you can kind of see them. And then I'm going to stop and then we're going to add the water. Okay, let's take a little look-see here. Ooh, oh, wait, focus, focus. There you go. See, there's the rufous. And there's my wonderful little, let me see if I can move my camera. There we go. There's my black chin. And there's my ruby. So now you can get a closer look. Let me see how far back I can go in here. There we go. Ooh, close-ups. I'm so high-tech. Not really. Anyway. See, there you go. Look at that. So now you've got everybody's all happy. See my bees. You can see my bees. Look at their happy little bees. 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 Look at bees. Look at that. Wait for it. Wait for it. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. There it is. Yeah, you can see the bees are yellow. I have a little bit of brown in there. I might even have some olive color in there. So you can kind of see, you mix these colors together. Okay. And what you end up is layers of color. Okay. And let's take a break and we'll come back and I'll add the water. I'm back. Now we're getting out the water. This is going to be so much fun I could scream. Okay, but I won't because it hurt your ears. Here's a highly sought after, valuable paper towel. Here is your little aqua brush that you can purchase at places like Jerry's Artorama or other places online, Hobby Lobby maybe, I don't know. But anyway, these are neat. They have the water inside of them, so you don't have to carry water around with you if you're going somewhere or you just don't feel like you want to go sit in bed and watch TV and paint. Yes, you can do that. And the other thing, if you don't have one of these, you don't need to go buy one. You can use a brush. I highly recommend the little liner brush. This is a little, I think it's worn off here. I think it's like a number 1 liner. Anyway, you want a skinny little brush. A watercolor brush is fine, just as long as it's got decent hairs on it that don't go, you know, if you're gonna spend money on anything, spend it on a good brush. Don't go cheap on the brush. You'll hate it, you'll hate yourself, you'll throw it, you'll end up taking, cheap brushes are just that, cheap garbage. You don't want them. So I'm going to show you, we're going to start out, and I recommend you start out on a leaf. I'm going to do it with a brush because most of you are going to have a brush and not the pen. Add water to it. And then you'll see that it starts to turn into watercolor. And you just kind of put water on it and then move it around with the brush. And stay in the lines. That's why I call it your own little paint by number. See? Ooh, ah. So you can come along here and you can use a bigger brush if you want. But the nice thing about the small brush is you have a lot more control. And keep your paper towel handy. If you get too much water on your brush, you can dab it. But the nice thing about using watercolor paper is that it soaks it up pretty fast. So you can add quite a bit of water and still be okay. See? I put a whole drop of water on there. And like I said, I start out light and then you can always go back and add more pencil, but wait till the paper dries. That's important. If you take one of these watercolor pencils or these Inktense pencils and put it on damp paper, you'll learn that it goes and that, yeah, just like that with the sound effects and everything. And then you'll discover that now an area that you really didn't want to be anywhere near that bright is screaming off the page bright. Okay? So yeah, you're adding water to it. You see I added a whole bunch of water right there. Don't freak out, don't cry. The nice thing about these is they don't run a whole lot unless you get a lot of paint or a lot of color on there. And your birds, you come in here and you just lightly add water. Now remember, when you get into these areas where you have a lot of dark colors, the brown, see, they kind of, you can see it start to fill. Okay. Now I'm going to use my paint pen here so I can show you that. Same thing, you just kind of squeeze it. See, you squeeze this dog, look at that. The water kind of comes down through it. So that's kind of neat. And it gives you uber control. And you can just brush right over like this. And then when you do the feathers on the back in here, see? Wow. Okay. And then along the wing. All those neat little colors you put on there start to blend together. And this is how you learn which colors look good together and which ones don't. And the little tiny bill. See how dark that is? You can kind of come on to the edge and be light with your touch. Don't like, you know, because his bill will end up being 15 miles wide. And you can come along on the edge. See how dark that is? That brown is super dark. And just brush it along the edge. And then his little feet. See how much darker? When you add water to it, it gets really dark. That's why you don't want to add a whole lot. And if you want to leave white on the edges of the feathers, you just don't paint that part. And you see how much darker? See how you're just like, what? But now you can clean your brush off too with a paper towel. Because it's just like paint, you got to clean it off when you switch colors unless you want them all to be mud. So now you can add water to this red, and all of a sudden the red is starting to look red. Look at that. Wow. Huh? And then you go back in here and see how dark he is right here. You can kind of move these colors around and make sure you leave that little white space before his eye on the other side. And then when you do the eye is really, really dark, so be careful. There you go. See? Look at that. And then you can come in and add some more water here, and that will kind of shade it, see? You just kind of squiggle it around and dab it in spots where you want to shade, and then come back and do this. See? And remember, under his little wing is going to be darker than it is on the top. So I like to shade all underneath and kind of clean that off a little, and then come back in here with this. There we go. See? Boom, boom. There you go. Mystery solved. Isn't that? It's not really a big mystery. Now, looking at this, I'd like more green in there. Don't add it now. Why? Because the paper is wet. If I threw the green on there, he wouldn't be green. He'd be green. You don't want that. So, leave him alone. Go work on another part of your painting, because now it's becoming a painting. See? Now it's becoming a watercolor. Look at this, huh? And see, by adding that light brown that we had in there, you can kind of do this with it. And now it looks like a feather where the light's coming through it because it's wet, translucent. There's that word again. Okay. And it's pretty dark under here, see? And then you can just... And like I said, you don't have to add water to all of it, just where you decide you want to add water. That's what's so nice about this. See? Yeah, stop and look. Say, okay, I don't like this. It's too bright. It's too dark. One thing I'm seeing is that brown is pretty darn dark. So you want to be very careful with it. At least in the Inktense. And the watercolor pencil, not so much. Now watch the purple. Remember we had the blue and the fuchsia in there? Okay, when you start adding the water, all of a sudden blue blends in, and then you start creating more of a purple like this. See? Boom, 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 boom. And his little, make sure you don't put your hand, sometimes I use my other hand to hold this hand. There. because you get in a hurry and you forget and you go, oh yeah, especially if you're left-handed like me, and then you put your hand on something that's still drying, and next thing you look is you've got like this neat little rendition of it backwards on your hand, and it's all so be careful. And then here's the bee. Get the bee. And once again, the dark colors are really dark, so be careful. And the wings are translucent. Actually, they're transparent. So you just kind of shade them a little, and then boom, there you go. It's a bee. I'm going to shade this. Okay, so you get the idea, I hope, how to do this. And then let's do these bottle brush real quick here so I can show you. See, now this is up to you how much water you want to add. When you look at them, you see they went from bright to a lot brighter when you add water, and they also get a lot thicker down in here. So if you want it to look more heavy duty in the center, because they are, all you have to do is kind of do this right down the middle, and now all of a sudden they're looking more heavy duty and thicker because there's a lot more of the little flower down there. See? And there's also going to be yellow on the edges of these, and I'll probably add, I mean, I have some in there now, but I'll probably add some later. And like I said, I always look at them. I usually will do these in layers. So there we go. See, it's brighter compared to the other ones, so they start to look more realistic. And as you do this, you'll see, you play around with it, you'll see. And they come all the way out like this. And if you have things overlapping other things, you may want to do the bottom, if you can, first, like this. See these leaves in here? And if some of this mixes in with it, it's not the end of the world. It's green. If you mix red with it, you get brown. So it's not that big of a deal. It's kind of hard to see sometimes. There we go. So you add all this. And see, it's okay because it's behind it, so it's okay if it's darker. Now, if it were in front of it, you may want to do it in a different way. But there we go. So you can add more here like that. Now it starts to look more like a real bottle brush. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to show you all of it because you probably will fall asleep. But you can see I'm doing all of this. I'm going to add water to all of it. Then I'll look at it. I'll let it dry. I add some layers. If I want to make this more greenish, I'm going to add green to it. Then I'll add more water. And then you just do that until it gets to where it looks right to you. What looks right to me may not look right to you, and vice versa. It's yours, not mine. So I'm just showing you so you can do it yourself. So we're going to just zoom in here a little bit so you can see a little bit better on how purple he is now and how ruby he is. There we go. See how intense these ink tints are, really bright when they get wet. And then our little Rufous, she's up there and she's just like, you guys stay away from me, I'm busy eating. I haven't added any water to her yet. She will get a lot redder. Here, I'll show you real quick here. If you add that, just so you see what I'm talking about. Look at that, see? Ooh, there's her back. Boom, 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 boom. See how the reddish brown, it's kind of a light brown color. really starts to stand out when you add water to her. See, look at this. Watch her beak. There we go. See? Look at that. That stuff is serious when it gets wet. I can see the difference between it and watercolor pencil does not get that bright, that dark, that quickly. So you have to be kind of careful with it. There we go. Okay? And you're looking at it going, well, that's really like you screwed it up. No, don't worry. Because when we get back in here, you'll see what I'm talking about. See the green? Yeah. And if you get a spot that you think might be just a little too intense, take yourself a piece of paper towel, kind of blot it. See? And it will take some of that away. Okay? There we go. There. Now you see what I'm talking about. Okay, I will show you a picture of it when I get it all done. Okay, it'll be on the video. There we go. It's the birds, the bees, and the bottle brush. Okay, I am back once more, and I've added water and some other layers to my initial drawing. And boom, you can take a look at it and you can see, let's zoom in here a little bit. There's my black chin. You can see I added more blue to give it a more realistic true color of what their throat really looks like when the light hits it. It's crazy purple if you've ever seen it. And then we're going to take a look at the Rufous up here. You can see I've added, there, let's zoom in, there. You can see I've added some more green to her and some more reddish brown. So she's a lot brighter. And I've added some yellow to the flowers. And come out here a little bit. Then we'll take a look at my ruby. You can see he is intensely red, which you do not get that intense of a red. Let's take a look at that. You do not get that intense of a red with a watercolor pencil. You'll get a bright red, but not intense. So I can truly say that the Inktense is intense. And if you're looking for that, that's a good, I would recommend it. I also noticed they have a tendency to bleed a little more than a typical watercolor pencil, so be a little stingy on the water. But aside from that, if you're looking for more of an illustrative type look where it's very bright, then they work great. And I added more green. There we go. More green. Here, let's take a look, see if I can just tilt it up here. Yeah, there's more green, more red to the flowers, and then a little more reddish brown to the stems to make them look a little more realistic. Okay, and overall, like I said, you can play with it. You can do whatever you think looks good, but I've given you basic skills on how to use it. Now it's up to you on what you do with it. So go out there and create something wonderful. See you next time.